He left on a Tuesday. No warning, no fight, just a slammed door, an echo that rattled the picture frames, and a text message that came 30 minutes later. "You'll figure it out. I'm done." I didn't need to ask what he meant by it. The credit card statement sat unopened on the kitchen counter. The total, $35,000, all in my name. He walked out with a mistress and left me with the bill. I wanted to scream. Instead, I folded the letter and slid it into a drawer. My daughter was watching. And if there's one thing I promised her, it's this: I don't fall apart in front of her. That night, while I sat silent at the table, she looked up at me with eyes far too steady for 12. She pushed her spaghetti aside and whispered, almost like a secret, "Don't worry, Mom, it's handled." Handled. The word hung in the air like a question I was too afraid to ask. I used to believe in him. When we first met, he was the kind of man who knew how to hold eye contact, how to charm a room. I mistook that for strength. I mistook attention for love. We built a life on borrowed smiles and borrowed money. I didn't notice the cracks until they widened. Late nights at the office, perfume on his collar, laughter in his phone that didn't belong to me. And then I found it. A receipt shoved in his coat pocket, dinner for two, a hotel suite, champagne. That was the night I stopped being blind. I didn't confront him, not then. What was the point? His body was already elsewhere, his heart too. Instead, I watched, listened, counted the hours, traced the lies back to their roots. Every betrayal leaves fingerprints. Every thief leaves a trail. By the time he packed his bags and disappeared, I knew the shape of his betrayal better than he did. Revenge didn't come to me in a storm of rage. It came in silence. First, I gathered every piece of paper he'd left behind. Bank accounts, tax returns, the second phone bill he thought I didn't know about. I built a map of his deceit. Second, I called the lawyer. He hadn't filed for divorce yet. That was his mistake. I filed first. Deaths in his name, custody papers airtight. His mistress's address carefully noted in the filings. And then came the final piece, the one I didn't expect. My daughter. She had been watching too, not just him, me. While I kept quiet, she was busy, digging through his social media, screenshotting, saving, forwarding me conversations he'd forgotten to delete. She knew the passwords. Children always know more than we think. She handed me his secrets like gifts wrapped in digital ribbon. And that was when I realized, together, we were dangerous. 4 days later, he called. His voice shook through the phone. "They froze my account," he said. "What the hell did you do?" I didn't answer right away. I let the silence stretch until I could almost hear his panic breathe. "You should check your mail," I finally said. By then, the bank had already flagged his withdrawals. The IRS had been notified of his undeclared income. His mistress, poor naive thing, was about to learn that the business trips were funded by stolen money and credit cards in my name. I hadn't yelled, I hadn't begged. I had simply redirected the spotlight he'd worked so hard to keep off himself. The confrontation came a week later, in the lawyer's office. He sat across from me, eyes bloodshot, the mistress absent now that the money was gone. "You think you've won?" he hissed. I leaned forward, calm, steady. "No," I said. "I think I've stopped losing." The lawyer slid the papers across the table. He signed them with a trembling hand. The debts were his. Custody was mine. His reputation? Shredded by his own greed. And when he finally looked up, he saw it. The thing he had underestimated all along. Not anger, not hatred, just clarity. That night, my daughter and I sat at the same kitchen table where it all began. She twirled her fork in her pasta, smiling the same secret smile. "See," she said softly, "handled." Handled. The word no longer sounded fragile, it sounded final. I don't dream of him anymore. When I think back, I don't see his charm, his lies, his betrayal. I see the drawer with the folded letter, The silence I turned into strategy. The daughter who refused to let me break. He thought walking away made him free, but all it did was give me room to rise. Justice isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a whisper across the table, a signature on a page, a man alone with nothing but the echo of his own mistakes. And me? I'm finally free.